Case number 1. The Witchcraft Murder. The English countryside is famous for its rolling hills, its quaint cottages, and its silence. We look at these villages and see peace. We see a slower pace of life. But silence can be a cover for something else. In the shadows of the ancient hills, old beliefs do not die. They fester. They wait. And sometimes they demand a price. Imagine an old man, 74 years old. He is working in a field, cutting hedges on Valentine's Day. He is harmless. He is frail. Yet, when they found him, he wasn't just murdered. He was executed, pinned to the cold earth by a pitchfork driven through his throat, a cross carved into his chest with a blade. This was not a robbery. This was not a fight. This was a ritual. Welcome to Lower Crinton. Welcome to the Witchcraft Murder. The year is 1945. While the world was celebrating the end of the Second World War, the village of Lower Quinton in Warwickshire was living in a different century. This place lies in the shadow of Meon Hill. According to local legend, the devil himself threw a clod of earth to create this hill. It is a place steeped in folklore, ghost stories, and the presence of the supernatural. Living in this village was Charles Walton. To the outsider, Charles was just an eccentric, solitary farm labourer. He lived in a tiny cottage with his niece. He walked with a stick. He kept to himself. But to the villagers, Charles Walton was something else. They whispered that he had the eye. They said he could talk to wild birds and feed them from his hand. They said he could tame the most vicious dogs with a single word. They believed he could control the weather or blight the crops with a glance. In 1945, in a modern England, the people of Lower Quinton still believed in witches, and they believed Charles Walton was one of them. February 14th, Valentine's Day. A day of love. But on Meon Hill, it was a day of blood. Charles left his cottage in the morning with his tools, a pitchfork for clearing debris, and a billhook, a curved blade for slashing hedges. He told his niece he would be back by 4 o'clock. 4 o'clock came. The sun began to set behind the hill. The shadows grew long. Charles did not return. His niece, Edith, worried, gathered a neighbor and went looking for him. The fields were quiet. The air was cold. Then they found him. The sight was so grotesque, so medieval, that it sickened even the veteran police officers who arrived later. Charles Walton was lying near a hedgerow. His own pitchfork had been driven with savage force through his neck, pinning him deeply into the ground. The prongs were buried inches into the soil. But the killer wasn't finished. He had taken the old man's billhook and slashed his chest open in the shape of a cross. His blood had soaked into the earth. To a modern detective, it looked like a frenzy, but to a historian, it looked like something far more terrifying. It looked like a blood sacrifice, an ancient pagan ritual to bleed a witch, to drain their power back into the soil to ensure a good harvest. Scotland Yard was called in. They sent their best man, Detective Superintendent Robert Fabian, known as Fabian of the Yard. He was a man of science, of logic, of the city. He arrived in Lower Quinton expecting to solve a murder. Instead, he walked into a war of superstition. Fabian found that the villagers were terrified, not of the killer, but of the victim. When he asked questions, doors were shut in his face. People crossed the street to avoid him. He was a witch, one local muttered. He put a hex on the cattle. He had to be stopped. Fabian discovered a book in the local library titled Folklore, Old Customs and Superstitions in Shakespeare Land. He opened a page from 1875, 70 years prior. It described a murder of a woman named Anne Tennant in the very same village. She was killed by a man with a pitchfork because he believed she was a witch. History was repeating itself. The village hadn't changed. They were protecting the killer because, in their twisted logic, the killer had saved them from the witch's curse.
But the strangest part of the story isn't the murder. It is what happened to the skeptical detective. Legend says that Meon Hill is haunted by a spectral black dog, a massive, shaggy beast with glowing red eyes. To see it is an omen of death. Charles Walton himself claimed to have seen the dog days before he died. Robert Fabian didn't believe in ghosts until one evening as dusk was falling over the crime scene. Fabian saw a large black dog run past him on the hill. It was silent. It moved with unnatural speed. Moments later, a young local boy walked by. Fabian asked him, "Did you see that dog? Whose dog is that?" The boy went pale. He looked at the detective and whispered, "There is no dog here, sir." When Fabian turned back to look, the animal was gone. There were no footprints, just the empty, cold wind of Meon Hill. Even the man of science had met the ghost of the village. The murder of Charles Walton remains unsolved. There was not enough evidence to charge anyone. The pitchfork was left in the body. The fingerprints were gone. The village kept its secrets. Fabian returned to London, defeated by the silence of the countryside. Charles Walton lies in the churchyard today, but the question remains, was he really a practitioner of the dark arts? Or was he just a lonely old man, killed by the collective paranoia of his neighbors? The Witchcraft murder forces us to confront a dark truth. We think we live in a world of smartphones and science, but scratch the surface and you find that the old fears are still there, waiting. Now, I leave this question to you. The villagers protected the killer because they believed Charles was cursing them. If you truly believed, deep down, that your neighbor was using dark magic to hurt your family, would you be capable of doing what they did? The countryside is vast, and it hides its bodies well.
Do you know of a local legend, a rural mystery, or a place in your hometown that people are afraid to visit after dark? Tell us in the comments below. Your story might be the subject of our next investigation. This is just the first chapter of our journey into the darkest unsolved mysteries of Britain. Subscribe and turn on the bell, because the next story will take us inside a house that trapped its victims like animals in a cage. Sleep well. We leave the open, blood-soaked fields of Lower Quinton behind. But as we move deeper into the heart of England, the shadows do not fade. They only grow longer. Case number 2. Who put Bella in the Wych Elm? There is a primal fear that lives in all of us. The fear of tight spaces. The fear of being trapped, unable to move, unable to scream, while the world goes on without you. Imagine for a moment. You are dead, but you are not buried in the ground. You are not resting in a coffin. You are stuffed inside the hollow trunk of an ancient tree, compressed, hidden. For 18 months, birds sing above you, children play beneath you, and you rot in the darkness of the wood. This is not a fairy tale. This is one of the most haunting mysteries of World War II. The date is April 18th, 1943. The location is Hagley Wood in Worcestershire. 4 young boys were trespassing in the private woods, looking for birds' nests and poaching. It was a time of war, and boys grew up fast. They came across a large wych elm tree. It was old, gnarled, and dying. Its branches spread out like skeletal fingers. One of the boys, Bob Farmer, decided to climb it. He peered down into the hollow trunk, hoping to find eggs. Instead, he saw something white gleaming in the gloom. He reached down and pulled it out. At first, he thought it was the skull of an animal, but then he saw the human teeth, and he saw a patch of hair still clinging to the bone. Terrified, the boys put the skull back and ran home. They promised not to tell anyone, afraid they would get in trouble for trespassing. But the face in the tree haunted the youngest boy. He couldn't sleep. He eventually told his father. When the police arrived, they found a scene that defied explanation. Inside the narrow hollow of the tree, they found the nearly complete skeleton of a woman. Forensic analysis revealed a chilling timeline. She had been placed there roughly 18 months prior, around October 1941. But here's the detail that keeps detectives awake at night. The opening of the tree was tiny. The killer had forced her body into the trunk while she was still warm, before rigor mortis set in. She was folded up, pushed down into the darkness like a discarded doll. Inside her mouth, they found a piece of taffeta cloth. She had been suffocated. And near the tree, buried in the leaves, they found a severed hand. Who was she? The war was raging. People were missing everywhere. The police checked dental records. They checked missing persons, but she had no name. She was simply the woman in the tree. The case went cold. The files gathered dust. But someone did not forget. 6 months after the discovery, just before Christmas in 1943, strange graffiti began to appear in the nearby town. Written in white chalk on a brick wall, a message appeared in large, bold letters. Who put Bella in the Wych Elm? The police were stunned. Who was Bella? Was this the victim's name? The graffiti was washed away, but it returned, again and again. It appeared on walls. It appeared on the base of an obelisk monument on the Witchbury Hill, facing the woods where the body was found. Who put Bella in the Wych Elm? The handwriting was consistent. It was the same person. This wasn't just vandalism. This was a taunt. Someone in the community knew exactly who she was. They knew how she died. And they were mocking the police from the shadows. Theories swirled like the fog in Hagley Wood. Some believed she was a German spy, dropped by parachute, who failed her mission and was executed by her own people. The name Clara Bauerle, a cabaret singer and spy who disappeared in 1941, was often whispered. Was Bella actually Clara? Others looked to the darker side of rural Britain. The severed hand found near the tree resembled a ritualistic object known as the Hand of Glory. In folklore, a Hand of Glory is a dried and pickled hand of a hanged man, used by thieves and witches to unlock doors and paralyze victims. Was Bella a victim of espionage? Or was she, like Charles Walton,
a sacrifice to something ancient? We may never know. The graffiti artist was never caught. The skeleton was eventually lost in a university transfer. Bella has died twice, first in the tree and second in our memory.
Today, the Wych Elm is gone, destroyed by storms and time. But the question remains, etched into the folklore of England. The graffiti still appears occasionally, written by new hands, keeping the mystery alive. This story terrifies us because of the anonymity. A woman walked into a wood and vanished. No one missed her. No one came looking, except for the killer who painted her name on the walls. Now, I have a question for you. The person who wrote the graffiti knew the truth, but never went to the police. If you witnessed a crime today, but knowing the truth would put your own family in danger, would you stay silent? Or would you write the truth on the walls? We have explored the open fields, and we have explored the dark woods. But for our final story, we must leave the countryside behind. We are going to the city, to the cold, wet streets of Liverpool. In the woods, you can run. In the fields, you can scream. But what happens when the killer locks you inside your own home and vanishes into thin air? Get ready for the impossible murder. The mystery of the locked room is coming up next. We leave the whispering woods of Hagley behind. We leave the silence of the trees. But as we enter the city, we find that noise offers no protection. Case number 3, the impossible murder of Julia Wallace. There is a specific type of horror that belongs to the city. It is the horror of being watched from the crowd. It is the horror of a plan so calculated, so perfect, that it feels like a game of chess played with human lives. Imagine receiving a phone call. A stranger invites you to a meeting at an address you have never heard of. You go. But when you arrive, you realize the street does not exist. It is a ghost address. And while you are wandering in the dark, looking for a house that isn't there, the killer is walking into your home. This is considered by detectives to be the perfect crime. A locked room mystery that has baffled the world for nearly a century. The year is 1931. The place is Liverpool, a city of fog, trams, and terrace houses. William Wallace was an ordinary insurance agent, a quiet man, a chess player. His life was boring, predictable, and safe. On the evening of January 19th, William went to his local chess club. When he arrived, he was handed a message. A telephone call had been received for him just minutes before he arrived. The caller identified himself as R.M. Qualtrough. The message was specific. Mr. Qualtrough wanted to discuss insurance. He asked William to meet him the next evening at 7:30 p.m. The address given was 25 Menlove Gardens East. William did not know a Mr. Qualtrough, but business was business. He noted the address, unaware that he had just accepted an invitation to his own nightmare. The next night, William kissed his wife Julia goodbye. She was alive. She was well. He locked the front door and boarded a tram. He arrived in the Menlove Gardens area on time. He found Menlove Gardens North. He found Menlove Gardens South. He even found West. But as he walked the cold, dark streets, asking policemen and residents for help, the chilling reality set in. There was no Menlove Gardens East. It was a fiction, a trap.
For 45 minutes, William wandered the maze, confused and cold. Someone had sent him on a wild goose chase. Someone who needed him out of the house. At 8:45 p.m., realizing he had been tricked, he returned home. William arrived at his house at 29 Wolverton Street. The house was dark. He tried the front door. It was locked. He tried the back door. It was bolted. He eventually managed to enter. The house was silent. He walked into the parlor. There, lying on the rug in front of the gas fire, was his wife, Julia. She had been beaten to death with extreme violence. Her skull was shattered. The room was splattered with blood. But here is the impossibility. William had been gone for a specific window of time. The house showed no signs of forced entry. Nothing of value was stolen. And William, the man who supposedly beat his wife to death? His clothes were spotless. Not a drop of blood on his coat. Not a speck on his shoes. No weapon was ever found. The police believed William was a genius mastermind. Their theory was terrifying. They believed he stripped naked, killed his wife, washed himself, dressed, and then went to the chess club to set up his alibi. He was convicted and sentenced to hang. But the case was so weak, the evidence so circumstantial, that a historic appeal overturned the verdict. William was set free. But if William didn't do it, who is R.M. Qualtrough? Was he a stalker who had been watching the house for weeks? Did he call the club knowing William would leave? Did he knock on the door the moment William turned the corner, knowing Julia would let him in? The Qualtrough caller made the call from a public phone box just 400 yards from William's house. He was watching. He was waiting. The case remains unsolved. William Wallace died 2 years later, a broken man, shunned by his neighbors. The weapon, the motive, and the identity of R.M. Qualtrough vanished into the Liverpool fog. This story leaves us with a lingering dread. It is not about ghosts or witches. It is about vulnerability. It is about how easily our routines can be used against us. A simple phone call was all it took to leave a door unguarded. So, as we end this journey into the dark, I have one final question for you. We all answer our phones. We all trust the voice on the other end. But the next time a stranger calls you with an offer that sounds too good to be true, ask yourself, are they giving you an opportunity? Or are they just trying to get you out of the house? We have walked the bloody fields of Meon Hill. We have looked into the hollow tree of Hagley Wood. And we have stood in the silent parlor of Liverpool. 3 stories, 3 mysteries, no answers. Now we turn the investigation over to you. Which of these 3 cases chilled you the most? Do you think Charles Walton was a wizard? Do you have a theory on who put Bella in the tree? Or do you think William Wallace was a genius killer who got away with it? Debate your theories in the comments below. We read everything, and the best theories will be pinned. And remember, the world is full of unsolved mysteries, perhaps even in your own town. If you have a true frightening story or a local legend you want us to investigate next, send it to us or leave it in the comments. If you enjoyed this descent into darkness, please like this video and subscribe to the channel. It helps us shine a light on the stories that history tries to forget. Until next time, stay safe and check your locks. good night.